2015 marks the 70th birthday of the United Nations. It's also the year when the organization added another sculpture to its artwork collection.
It's very rare for somebody to be given an opportunity to work on something of such historical and cultural significance.
Rodney Leon, an architect living and working in New York in the United States of America, is the creator and designer of the Ark of Return, which sits on the grounds of the United Nations. This stunning piece of art represents the permanent memorial in honor of the victims of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. For Rodney, this journey began some 3 years ago when he created the winning design in a competition sponsored by UNESCO.
As soon as we realized that we had won, we knew that there was going to be a lot of work that had to be done.
Rodney drew his inspiration for his masterpiece from the door of no return at Gorée Island, Senegal.
People were held in these slave castles or prisons, awaiting to be taken out, stripped away from their lives and their families and everything they knew through this door of no return, never to return. So the Ark of Return was our attempt to develop a design which allows people to, if they're not able to physically return, at least they can acknowledge the fact that people had suffered great tragic losses and experiences in order to make it possible for our lives to be where we are today.
Selecting the design was the first step, but actually building the memorial required significant funding. Jamaica's ambassador, Courtney Rattray, chairman of the Permanent Memorial Committee, encouraged other UN member states and interested donors to fund the project. Rodney began the search for marble to build the Ark. Eventually, Rodney found what he was looking for at Vermont's Danby Quarry in the United States.
And it's probably, some of the most unique marble you'll be able to find in the world.
Sculptors from Italy were flown in and work began.
We have some artisans that have been hand carving and sculpting a figure that we call the Trinity figure, that represents the spirit of the men, women, and children that died during the transatlantic slave trade.
Keen on incorporating an African element into his work, Rodney chose black Zimbabwe granite to sculpt the body of the Trinity figure.
The Trinity figure was going to be accompanied by an image of an engraving of a plan of a slave ship that shows how all the slaves were held below deck and how tight and confined those spaces were that they had to experience for months and months while they were journeying across the Atlantic Ocean. And that figure has a hand that's reaching out to welcome people into the chamber.
At the United Nations, the stainless steel frame, which forms the base of the structure, arrived. Determined to meet the deadline for the unveiling ceremony, construction crews worked tirelessly through extreme weather conditions for 5 weeks straight.
One of the biggest challenges that we had was to be able to make the penetrations in the slab to make our electrical and plumbing connections happen. Because of so many difficult weather conditions that kept popping up, we decided we're going to put up a temporary tent.
Finally arrived at our noble goal.
Finally, it's D-Day, 25th March 2015. The Ark of Return was unveiled for the first time at United Nations headquarters in New York.
Our dream and vision has become a reality. For the very first time, Ark of Return.
UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon.
This memorial, so beautifully designed by Mr. Rodney Leon, will stand here at the United Nations headquarters to honor the memory of some 15 million men, women, and children who were forced to cross the Atlantic Ocean in slave ships.
It will remain a permanent fixture here to educate future generations about that tragic event in the history of our world, slavery. It's a dream come true for Rodney. He hopes that the Ark of Return will be a reminder to the leaders of the world who come to the United Nations of their responsibility to prevent tragedies such as the transatlantic slave trade from ever occurring again.
A project like this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. It's been an incredible journey.
This report was produced by Mary Ferreira for the United Nations.